Rally round the flag, rally round the red, gold, black and green. And tonight we're talking about the Black Stars. That's what we're talking about tonight. What really is the issue with you this evening? I see that you have a smirk on your face when I mentioned the Black Stars. Why is it so difficult for you to bring back the love for our senior national team? What will make you support them fully? What will bring back the passion of the nation? That game against Brazil was, after all, just a friendly game. It won't be the first time we perform miserably during a friendly game, but perform creditably at the World Cup. Well, I'm sure you remember that. Why write off the national team? Yes, there have been moments that the players deserve a sound beating. But hey, who doesn't make mistakes in their line of duty? You all have views about it. Let's hear your views tonight. With just about 55 days to go for Qatar 2022. But hopefully, something will change on Tuesday when we test our preparedness against the Lazul y Blanco, to wit the blue and white. We are the red, gold, green, but they are the Los Pineleros, Nicaraguan national team in Spain. What we intend to do on the probe tonight is to get all of you to rally around the Black Stars of Ghana. Bring back the love, live on the probe, live on the JoyNews channel. It's DSTV channel 421, GoTV 144, on Joy 99.7 FM on radio, myjoyonline.com, and affiliates across the country. Also on all our social media platforms. Feel free and leave your comments there. I have a lineup of names who are passionate about the game of football. I'll introduce them after this quick turnaround and your views as well. Let it be heard. I am Emefa Apawu. Stay tuned. We're right back. Welcome back. This is The Probe here on the JoyNews channel, and we are looking at bringing back the love for our dear Black Stars. Whether you like it or not, it's our dear Black Stars, and we need to ramp up that support for them and see how it goes. But tonight, I've been joined on the VAR Zoom by Kobna Mensah Woyome. He's a ranking member on the Youth and Sports Committee of Parliament. I also have VAR Zoom. Subsequently, I have a number of them joining us. I'll have Kofi Bentil with Imani. I also have Sunny Dara, he's a former communications director at the GFA. I have Lai Kingston, he's a former Black Stars player and now a coach himself. Jerome Otri is a man of many parts, but once a journalist, always a journalist. He joins me. Also, same applies to Nathan Gaduga. Once a journalist, always a journalist. And my colleague Muftau Nabila is with me in the studio, giving me all the support as well. George Ado Jr. Is with the Black Stars team. He's in camp with them. Will also join us via Zoom. We are yet to get a word from Harry Asante Chum, who is the communications director of the GFA for obvious reasons. They are moving from France to Spain, so it'll be very difficult. But as and when we're able to get him, we'll talk to them as well. And later on, we'll get to activate the phone lines as well, and then we can get your views as well. But let me start with you. Gentlemen, welcome once again to the probe. Maybe we should it's a good time to test your microphones and say a quick hello, and then we get talking. Hello, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Good to see you all. Thank you very much for joining us. It's only fair that we start with Lai Kingston. He's been on the pitch before, and he's played for the Black Stars. He's played against Brazil, even though they also got a 3-0 thrashing at the time. Yes. So, Lai Kingston, you watched the game. You've heard all the talks about this particular friendly game. People took it more seriously than a friendly game, though. But what do you think, or what did you see in that game on Friday that you think must change or shouldn't have happened?
Thank you very much. Greetings to my big man. Sunny, it's been a while. I hope everything is fine.
Hello, Coach. I can see you. Yes. We'll speak after the show.
Yeah, coming to the question. For me, I think Ghana-Brazil game is a big game. Brazil is a country that a lot of players in the world wanted to face. We all say that before they will put you up to the top players list, you have to play against the best. So for me, that particular game is very important for the Black Stars players and the entire team. In the game, for me, I think the approach to the game wasn't right. I think they gave too much respect. because I believe that we have a lot of quality. I believe that the same way we have so much respect for the Brazilian team, I believe we have the same respect to us as well. So for me, it's the approach. I don't think we approach the game well. We give them too much respect. We don't see that affect us in the first half. We were sitting, waiting for them, and yet when they get to our half, there is no bite. We are not trying to put pressure on them and then frustrate. So for me, I think a game of 2 halves. Otto got it right in the second half. That shows the quality of the coach he is, because for me, I believe not every plan that to take to the game will work, but find solution to solve the problems that you are encountering in said game, which I believe Otto got it right. We all saw that the second half they came out very well, and then they held the Brazilians very well.
What would you say the team was told differently going into the second half? Because we saw that sloppy performance. You say that they may have given too much respect to the Brazilian side. But what could have changed in the changing room all the way to the second half? What do you think could have happened?
Yeah, for me, I think the coach have a lot of technical break around him. So definitely after the first half, they will give him a lot of heads up on some situations that they've seen. For where I was sitting, for me, I think our pressing shape, our defensive shape is what cost us. Our pressing shape is what the Brazilian coaching staff capitalized on that. We're defending low in our half, and then we're defending 4-1-4-1. 4-1-4-1 always have to rely on your two defensive, which Brazilians did. In the name of Neymar and Paqueta. They always go in the front pocket and wait for the center backs to feed them. So I believe that the technical team around gave him a heads up, and then also he realized that for us to stop them, we have to keep our box very well.
We'll try and see if we can fix Lai Kingston's sound. At this point, it looks like we are losing a bit groggy there. So we'll try and then fix Lai Kingston's sound, and then we'll get back to you. But Sunny, let me bring you in at this point. We are bringing back the love, but we are assessing this particular game against Brazil, and then look forward to Tuesday and then to Qatar 2022, which is the most important. Some believe that we can win this, but I don't know what you think. But really, let's do a quick assessment of Brazil. 3-0. You were there. You watched that game. What really happened?
I think that it was a game of 2 halves, like Kingston stated. But I look at it in a more positive light. Because there are guys like Nathan, I can see you, who said that a lot of players that didn't play in the qualifiers should not be part of the team. Now, what Otto suggested, whether by design or by accident, is that he put out a team that looked like our last official match against Nigeria that helped us to qualify, and a team that looked like those players who have been added on. Now, that answered 2 questions. One, was that team against Nigeria a team for us to go to the World Cup with? The first half answered that question. Whether it was by design or by accident, we saw that team against Nigeria was not enough to be able to take us to the World Cup and help us excel. Now, that second half, when we injected more players who had switched nationality or had decided after Nigeria qualified, brought us to the point where we realized that these players that we've brought will add some bites to the team that we have. And I think that is more interesting going forward. It is interesting going forward because it will answer a lot of questions for us. One, that we need to inject more energy into the team. That two, some hard decisions have to be made going forward. And three, some decisions of some more additions before the World Cup final team is named would also have to be made. From now up to November, when the final squad is named. So for me, it answered, the first half performance was not pleasing, but it answered, some of the questions and also gave us the time for some introspection before we go to the World Cup. And if you look at it, when somebody like Salisu came in, it stabilized the defense.
Okay, now that you've mentioned Salisu, for instance, you mentioned 3 key points: inject some more energy, hard decisions should be taken, and then decisions about additions. Now that you've mentioned a name, who shouldn't have been in the first lineup, at least the startup for Brazil? Which names were you looking out for that should have started, for instance, that did not? And let's talk about the hard decisions that you think ought to have been taken that we're not taking.
What I agree is the fact that we have to answer Ghanaians in some way. The coach had to answer some Ghanaians. There are a lot of, some popular voices out there like Nathan, who were, mooting the idea that players who had not played in the qualifiers were not needed. But that answered the question, because you now come to the realization that with those players we had in the past, we cannot do well at the World Cup. So that helps solve the problem. Now, Ghanaians themselves are now saying that, oh no, some of the players need to be benched, some need to be dropped, and the rest. That has been solved. Going forward, I think that, some of the new players would have to be, based on the first half performance, would have to be regulars going forward. And then we need to examine particularly our central midfield position. In the absence of Thomas Partey, Baba Idrisu, was a very good player, but it looked like he was overwhelmed by the situation. Perhaps we need to re-examine that position. Perhaps we need to recall some players who have experience in those sensitive areas. My thinking is Mubarak Wakasu in that central midfield position. And then we also need to look in our attacking position, whether we are enough to go on experimenting with the Afeniajan experimentation. We can see clearly the vast difference between what Inaki Williams can deliver and what Afeniajan can deliver. So that gives us the opportunity now to say that certain hard decisions would have to be made by the coach to say that, look, at this point, we cannot gamble anymore.
Okay.
We need to go hard, put in a lot of the new players who have come on board and who should. Somebody like, Odoi, for instance, clearly was out of his sorts. Just a blink of an eye from Neymar will just put him out of position. Clearly, we can see that we need Tariq Lamptey in that position. So these are some of the questions that have been answered.
Okay, well, 3 key things that you've mentioned, but let me, I would want to bring in Mr. Komna Mensah-Woyome, but I would want you to hear the views of the pundits, and then we can hear from the legislature or the legislator on this particular thing and what you think should be done in terms of the interventions that we're going to be putting in place. Nathan and Mr. Kofi Bentil, you are all of the view that some of those who did not help us qualify for this particular tournament should not be there. There are some names that I've seen, like Afinajan. Yeah. There are some names that people have mentioned, Afinajan, Suleimana, Hudson Odoi, Wola Kot, Babaraman. For them, they shouldn't have started. Plus the Ayew brothers, some have mentioned. These are the names that I've seen, at least being bandied around, that these particular names ought not to have been in this startup. At least Otuado should get the balls at some point, not to start them. They should start them from the bench. But let me bring in Nathan and then Kofi Bentil, since you seem to have, you told the same line on this particular thing. Nathan, what for you really happened with Brazil? And then going forward, what do you think should change whilst we take on Nicaragua?
Hi, Emefa, good evening. Good evening to Sunny and Lai as well, and to all the other panelists. I think it's very important to set the record straight, okay? For instance, there has never been an occasion where I have been against the beefing up of the Black Stars. I have never, at no point have I made any point against beefing up of the team. My specific issue has been that those 2 players who were actually spoken to for about 2 years, Consistently, coaches upon coaches made attempts to invite them to come into the national team, and those two players turned down the offer to play for the Black Stars. And so the impression should never be created as though some of us are really against the beefing up of the team. No, I have nothing against a player like Tariq Lamptey. Actually, I would have preferred he started the game against Brazil. Okay, so I think it is very good that I set the record straight that at no point in time was I against the beefing up of the team, because naturally I know players who pick form ahead of the tournament. You need to replace one or two players. Those who are in form, you bring them in. Those who are out of form, you take them out. So naturally, I understand that. But these two key players were the players who we made efforts. Coaches, it started with Siki Akono, name them. All the coaches made several efforts to draft them into the team. Mm-hmm. Somehow, they gave flimsy excuses. One of them said he wasn't a Ghanaian, he didn't feel like Ghanaian, and it would be unfair for him to come and take the place of a Ghanaian at the World Cup. So what happened after we have qualified for the World Cup? Suddenly, he becomes a Ghanaian. Mm-hmm. So that is my issue, and it's basically an issue of principle, and there is no way anybody can argue with that. So having set that out of the way, I think we'll come to the game against Brazil.
I suppose you are talking about Iñaki Williams and Mohamed Salisu. Are these the players you're talking about?
Those two players. Okay. Those two players. Consistently, we made all the efforts to get them in about 2 years ago. And somehow, they gave flimsy excuses and told us they were not going to play for us. Somehow, we qualified into the World Cup, and then they have suddenly made a U-turn. That's where I have a problem with it. Okay. And I think it's purely based on principle, and I stand by it. Now, if you go to the game against Brazil, mm-hmm. Coach Lai Kenstein and then Sunny Dara have both said it was a game of two halves. Why? And even the coach, Otto Addo himself, said he made a mistake. Yeah. Why did he make a mistake? He went along with quote and unquote players he thought were loyal and who qualified the team to the World Cup. I understand that perfectly, and I agree with that. But where I disagree with him was the choice of personnel, the choice of loyal personnel he used in the game. To start with, I have nothing against Baba Rahman, but I would always prefer Gideon to have started.
Why? Loyalty doesn't pay anymore for you?
No. Loyalty pays, but mm-hmm. Gideon has been loyal. Gideon has been loyal as well. A player like Tre has been outstanding, and he has been loyal. That player will sit on the bench even when Thomas Partey is not starting. Still baffles me. I didn't understand why Tre would not be given the starting role even when Partey is not playing. Okay. So even though I understood perfectly the decision Otto Addo made to use quote and unquote loyal players to start the game with, his choice of personnel for me was a bit suspect. Okay. And come to think of it, look, if those two players I mentioned early on had made a decision to play for Ghana 2 years back, we would have understood their psyche, we would have understood the position they will play in the game, we would have set up very well, and we will not go into this national embarrassment only for us to come back and say that, okay, we had a good first half because we used quote and unquote loyal players, and then once we brought in the truants,
okay,
things settled. No, that's a defeatist way of looking at it. We could have solved this problem long ago, 2 years back, if those two players had come in, settled with the team, understood the psyche of the team, and we would have moved on from there.
Okay, well, let me bring in the others also on this. Jerome is with me, Kofi Bentil also there, and also George Adu Jr. will be joining us with the team. He's with the team. He's also on. We'll get to them shortly on this. Like I said, we'll take your views as well. But Jerome, there are those who say that our qualification to the World Cup was only masked our poor performance as a team. 11 games in recent times, we've conceded 17 goals, scored 9, and Otto Addo has been in charge of 7 out of these 11 games. really, did our qualification to the World Cup just masked our performance such that our friendly with Brazil and what we are going to see on Tuesday also with Nicaragua, just unearthing what exactly the Black Stars team is made of?
Yes, to some extent, I will agree with those who say that, because the World Cup campaign didn't really see, or the Black Stars didn't give us the kind of Black Stars a lot of us expected. And the fact that we overcame Nigeria was good. I mean, it was very important we did. But if you are going into how we did it, then, I mean, if you're a proper football person, you will agree that technically we were not there. I mean, we qualified by some regulations or by some rules of the game, which I must say it's part of the game. But then on the field of, I mean, play, the performance we displayed wasn't the best. And I'm not surprised at how we are turning out to be, because you see, we are refusing to admit that we are not the Ghana Black Stars that we saw some years ago. And it is going to take us some years to arrive at that team we want to see.
Now, how many more years?
You know, it's taking us a bit longer because of how we do our things. And I have said that if we do not change how we have approached national team selection, we are going to take much longer than we should have taken. Because you see, the team selection, in my view, sometimes have been problematic. I mean, I do not want to sound too controversial this evening, but I cannot believe that if, for instance, we didn't have the KET administration in place right now, a player like Baba Rahman will be in the Black Stars. He will have no place. I mean, let's not deceive ourselves. He's there because it is his managers who are managing Ghana football, and they have said, I mean, categorically, that he's always going to be in the team because they are in charge of our football. And these are things that sometimes when you say, people try to make it look like you are targeting some players. We are not targeting some players. We are just saying that if we want proper national team building, it should be left to players who qualify on merit. And not because...
Jerome, do we still have favoritism, nepotism, and frefrekobo in the Black Stars?
Well, I wouldn't say nepotism. I don't think I've found any evidence of nepotism, but there is favoritism, and I don't think it is fair. I mean, I heard you ask the question about some of the players that came in, I mean, later on when we qualified. Nathan has been talking about that. Let's face it. They are Ghanaians. I am not running away from that fact. But if we are not qualified for the World Cup, these players wouldn't have joined us. They wouldn't have joined us. And we are making it look like without them, we cannot perform. It is true. We need them. I mean, we need that quality of performance to get some proper expectation as we go to the World Cup. But if that is how we are going to approach our team building, then there will always be problems. Because once this competition is over, I am waiting to see how these players will respond to other national calls, like playing for the AFCON. That would tell me whether genuinely they wanted to play for the Black Stars or because we had qualified for the World Cup. But my central point is we need to look at how we are building our team, because it has been problematic from day one, and we don't seem to have learned any lessons. I mean, look at the number of coaches we have changed. I understand that in football, I mean, coaches will come and go, they'll be hired and fired. But if Otto Addo is giving us results that are not so different from what Sike Akono gave us, from what Milo gave us, then it tells you that perhaps it wasn't a coaching problem. Perhaps it is something else. I wouldn't want to be hard on Coach Otto Addo because I think he has made some concessions, and we have to give him that room, at least for the next two try matches, and see whether those mistakes he claims he has made, he'll correct them. And maybe from there, we can really talk about some serious
Can you put a finger on what that something is, if we have identified that it may not all be a coaching problem?
Well, I am not in any doubt that selection is still a problem. I think that selection is dictated to him. I mean, I have no, I say this without any fear of contradiction. I think that Coach Addo needs to come out clearly, because I still see some hands detecting some players to him, and this is something that you would ask for evidence, and I'll point you to what the FA president said, that coaches are not going to have the independence to select players for our national teams, and that for me still is a subject that, as long as the FA president has not backtracked on those words, would always pop up when selection appears to be a bit shady. For instance, the Brazil game, I didn't expect him to start some of the players he started. And that's why everybody is saying that the second half was better. Some of us think that Brazil, more or less, were a bit laid back in the second half. But it's fair to say that when Inaki and the rest came in, our game plan changed. That tells you that if those players can change our performance, why not start with them? Why do you wait till we are hammered before you go to your players that everyone is saying are good? It reminds me of what a former coach of our side said some time ago. He was waiting for the Americans to decide who could bring in the best cards. You don't do that. You start with your best and make sure you win.
Well, Jerome, let me bring in Kofi Bento. I know deep down somewhere there's love for the Black Stars. It's just a few things that you're hoping would change so that you can publicly show that affection for the Black Stars. What would it be, Mr. Bento?
Emefa, I have always been passionate for the Black Stars until recently. So it's not about waiting for something to publicly show it. My friends tell me I am still passionate, but I have declared publicly that I don't support the Black Stars anymore. It's too much stress.
You can't say that.
And it's because of the things. No, I'm telling you. I didn't want to come and say these things on air. But I have many reasons why I don't want to waste my time on that stuff. And it's partly because of what Jerome is saying. I mean, we are seeing things. What we are seeing now is the result of 20 to 30 years of a slip. And for somebody like me who clearly sees, for instance, that the selection is not meritocratic. The selection into the Black Stars is people's business strategies. People putting up players to advertise them and hoping that they are going to get contracts. We are using national funds to fund people's expenses to get contracts on the international stage. And it is showing in our results. So there are many reasons why some of us, basically have checked out of the Black Stars. And like I said, I would not want to discuss these things publicly, but if we have to have these discussions, we'll have it, because you're asking, what do we do to bring back the love for the Black Stars? Yeah. And I think that's important. Indeed, that's why I accepted to speak. Now, that is important because we are actually not talking about a game. I know that the football people and many people will not agree with me on many of the points I'm going to make, but they're points of principle. And I don't want us to only fix it on this game. In all planning, in all strategy, in all long-term thinking, you have to distinguish between an event and a trend. An event is one thing that happens. Many things, cross-compensation effect, can make one event look different. But trend you should not miss. No good manager misses a trend. We have had a trend, 20 to 30 years of a trend, and that is clear. And let me make this clear. Football people are going to make a lot of argument about how they are the right people to handle football. People should leave it alone. Football is a different thing. The trend, the history, the performance has shown that when we handed over the Black Stars to the football people, they have woefully failed over decades. We have just slipped down. Okay, and when civil servants, when Ohinijan and co, who were government appointees and co, were handling the Black, we got the best, results. So, like I said, not everybody's going to, agree with everything I want to say here. And one program is not enough to explain everything clearly. But if you're asking me, what do we do to restore the Black Stars? What do we do to bring back the love? We have to, one, show that the Black Stars is indeed a national team. It is for the people of Ghana. It is not for a group of people to work out their business schemes and use public funds and public arenas to advertise for their private businesses and private players, and then later on go on to monetize it. What we have in football today is a business where the loaded onto government, and then the benefits are loaded onto the individuals and then the players as well. Okay, so a number of things have to change. And I'm saying the trend has shown that the football people are not good at managing football because they have performed worse than when people who were not necessarily, football per se people were handling it. I, for once, if I want to see the love come back to the Black Stars, I'm going to cut off like 20 years and totally change direction. I'm going to say, or for the next 20 years, we are changing direction. If it's a national team, if the state is going to fund Black Stars, then this is how we are going to go. We're going to have a Ghanaian coach. We will have a Ghanaian coach, and we will keep that coach until absolutely no way makes sense for us to keep the coach. And we will make a policy that indeed sufficient talent, and if we have to, we'll send one person who qualifies for coaching course every year for the next 10 years. And out of that 10, we will get one or two who will be world class, and we will maintain Ghanaian coaches and make our mistakes on Ghanaian coaches instead of spend all our money on people who are all binding or bonding to this country. They come here, they take our money, they go, and then they laugh at us. And I'm going to make sure that the team is built around a local core. For that, I will make an exception. And the exception will be that if you have the Inakis and Co who are outside, because it's a global village now, they won't belong to Ghana, they sign up at the beginning. And we will be making calls for them, of course. If they can come every time, that's okay. But when we have key things to do, for instance, the sign up means that, look, I am a Brazilian, or born in London, or I come from America, or one of my parents is Indian, but I want to belong to the Ghana team. You sign up way ahead, and you make some commitments for this sign up, for which reason they will bring you in. Look, if we are looking at bringing back the love, making people feel like this is a national team, and we are trying to, let the hearts follow, then we have to change this direction. One of the things I will definitely change is the reward structure. Okay. It doesn't make sense for us to be paying the levels of bonuses we are paying to the management team. No way. I won't do that. And indeed, I will be radical at that because I want to see and I want to see nationalism. I want to see people who are sacrificing. Look, we know that the people who come and play for the Black Stars come and play first and foremost because they're on the world stage to be scouted and then to win contracts. Then secondly, they may be patriotic about it. So I am telling you this, and it's my theory. If we choose to give people zero bonus for playing for the Black Stars, there will still be people who want to play, including some of these people who claim that at a point they are not, Ghanaians or whatever it is. So, for instance, I will not cut out totally the reward system, but I won't pay bonuses fees. I will pay bonuses at the end of the tournament, not per match and per whatever it is. You go in basically not because of the money. All right. I will guarantee to every player that if you get hurt in the course of business for Black Stars, whether training, traveling, or playing, if you get hurt, the state will take care of your medicals until you are fit, your profession. But bonuses for players will be paid at the end of the tournament. They will be paid in cedis and they'll be put in Ghanaian bank accounts. Many people won't agree with me, but this is me. And this is why I have checked out. And I want to see some things change. If the same things go on, I won't waste my time. Once in a while, when I feel like it, I'll come and write what I feel, and then people will say what they have to say about that. So look, there's a lot that has to change for this thing to become what Ghanaians are again passionate about. People who follow football are not passionate about the Black Stars. Look, sometimes we can't help it. Like myself, I can't help it sometimes. I just have to, say something or, it comes out of me. My friends know I'm still passionate about it. But I'm telling you, Emefa, there's a lot to say. I like to run up here, but we cannot do the same things and expect a different result. We cannot demand from Ghanaians that they should put their hearts behind the Black Stars, which is essentially some people's business.
Thankfully, I have the football people with me, both via Zoom and in studio as well. But let me bring in Kobna Mensah. I know that Muftar wants to make a comment.
I really wanted to react to something pretty quick from Kofi Bento. He said that since football was handed to the football people, they failed woefully. I think if he goes back to the history books, he would realize that there was a deliberate plan from government in yesteryears in the development of coaches and football in Ghana, where Kwame Nkrumah deliberately sent the likes of Agrifin, the likes of C.K. Jemfi, the likes of Cecil Jones Atuquefiu to Germany and Brazil and Hungary to go and learn football. That was how they all came back to Ghana and managed our national team and won the African Cup of Nations for Ghana. These days, it doesn't happen. coaches invest in themselves at this point. We are at a point that government cannot dictate how someone should go and learn. If government wants to manage football, then it means that they need to go back to the yesteryears template that we had in managing football, where government would decide that every single year we want to train, say, Kwesi Appiah for the next 3 years because we want to give him the Black Stars to come and take over in the next 5 years. So we have to send him to Germany, we have to send him to Hungary, we have to send him to Brazil to go and learn. So that when he comes back, he take over our national team. If that does not happen, then you cannot determine who manages the national team at this point. Okay. It doesn't happen anymore.
Or to invest. Well, let's bring in Mr. Kobna Mensah-Woyome. He's the ranking member of the Youth and Sports Committee.
Let me congratulate and then greet my colleagues that have spoken ahead of me, and to also indicate.
Oh dear. Am I losing Mr. Kobna Mensah-Woyome? I pray that we have a stable connection to him. Yes. But let's try again. Yes.
Very bad, very bad connection here. I think I would want to probably dwell on systems that need to be built, systems that are failing us or have been failing us all these years. And so that at least we can probably get the building process quicker than as it's getting, and so that we don't repeat certain mistakes over and over again. Whilst I also say that probably let's also get the people that are in charge now to be listening to other views. I don't think that they should take some of these positive suggestions as maybe somebody wanted his job or the job, because I hear a lot from behind. Let us open the administration process so that we can bring on board others who think that maybe the same thing can be done in a different way for a better result. I will always go out for maybe a start. I think the normalization hasn't really come to an end. We need to really get a whole lot. And as was rightly indicated, I mean, even well to train our coaches, to train our industry players, it's a problem. The sports college, I mean, we all know what is happening. That is now a dead facility. And so it's all about government also ensuring that the infrastructure are really put in place. So that
it appears we are losing you again, but we're hoping that members of the legislature will be the ones that will be the watchdog for us to put those who are supposed to be in charge on their toes, on their feet, so that things can be done the way it ought to be done. But it looks like we've just lost him there. We're hoping to hear from him on that as well. But let's go to the camp of the Black Stars at this point. And we are getting ready for to face Nicaragua on Tuesday in Spain. George Adu Jr. Joins us via Zoom as well. Thank you, George. So between after the game...
Can I come in?
Okay, it looks like we have Kobna Mensah-Woyome back. Okay.
Yes. So just because of the way I'm not getting a good connection. So let me just wrap up quickly.
I agree.
To say that.
Unfortunately, I've just lost the connection to him again, but hopefully we'll try again and then get Mr. Woyome back. George, take us to the Black Stars camp, and after that defeat against Brazil, which is not the first though, 3-0. Tell us what the mood is like in camp. Is the Jama still on? How exactly are they hoping to redeem that image on Tuesday?
Yeah, good evening to everybody. There have been some really strange ideas across the board. I don't think I have all the time to react to everything. So let me stick with the camp news. I don't agree with many of the things that have been said.
Like what? Like what?
Yeah. Including Nathan. I mean, Nathan's outburst to say the new players who have come and he's suspecting they are not patriotic and all of that. I'll leave it at, if you wanted the team that played against Nigeria in that final qualifier for the World Cup, you saw them in 45 minutes against Brazil. It's the same Ghanaians who were saying they were better players. we should have fielded them onto the pitch to play. When those better players, in quotes, by Ghanaians came in, no goals were conceded. So I think we're at a place where we have to be very careful about some of the things that we say, because most of them are also hearsay. The Inaki Williams bit is true, but there are quite a number of the players, and I have spoken to them. I've spoken to some of them, one-on-one, where they didn't say some things, but it has been somehow put in the media that they said some things. So I only take the Inaki Williams one aside, but the other examples that Nathan gave,
like Mohamed Salisu, with Salisu's case, it didn't happen.
Yes, it's only when it's only when you have watched the Mohamed Salisu matter from far away, you won't understand the nitty-gritties on that. But Mohamed Salisu at no point in his life said, "I won't play for the Black Stars." He never said that. He never said that. And we have seen this. We have seen it happen. Players have asked for time so that they get their club football sorted out, which is also very necessary, because the players' currency is the club football before they come in. And it's always like being on a process. So it's a long process that the GFA will start in collaboration with the technical team before they finally land in a player. So it's a bit interesting when we are making it look like, oh no, the only thing that made the player come was because the country qualified for the World Cup. And when you put the balance there, of course, the country also needs them. So I think that in that one, we have to be a bit careful, with the way we go and go about it. Let me come to your question about how the camp is viewing everything that has happened. Mm-hmm. So I understand that as Ghanaians, we always want to massage our egos when we play these friendly games, and we want to prove to the whole world that we are really good and all of that. But the game against Brazil was a test game for the World Cup. It was a game for the technical team to try the ideas that they had. It was a game for the technical team at the very top level to learn about their team. Ghana is the worst ranked team in the World Cup of 32 teams that are there. Brazil is the best ranked team. So it was an upstairs downstairs game anyway. The technical team were clear in their minds what they had to do and what they had to learn about it. So I think that after the first 45 minutes, the case was clearly made there. Huge cases were made there for the performance at that level. The technical team have taken their points and they don't look too disturbed. Okay, we understand. I mean, they understand that Ghanaians are not happy about it because they wanted to see Ghana beat Brazil. They wanted to see Ghana draw with Brazil. But all of that really in the plans of the technical team wasn't going to be about the result. It was going to be about the key lessons that they have learned from there as they go forward in all the key areas. So they have been, relaxed. They have been relaxed. And again, the issues that happened before the game, losing Thomas Partey at the start of the game meant that, it's actually also throwing the whole plan through the window. Jusu Baba came, he had the chance to do it. And so, they were able to go through it. And then the second half, they had the guys come on to sort it out. So that point is clearly made. I don't think that the technical team are overly worried with what happened. So we're looking at what they'll do in the Nicaragua game, knowing that there is very little time to prepare for the World Cup. But it all comes down to what the Black Stars would do on the first game against Portugal on the 24th. So the team is in Loca, where they are preparing for that second game against Nicaragua. Thomas Partey, who felt uncomfortable with his knee after the initial warm-up, is gone to London for further scan of his knee. That was a precautionary measure taken by the Ghana Football Association, who were in constant touch with the Arsenal medical team. And so aside him, the rest of the players are ready and are looking forward to continue what is a preparation for the World Cup. We've been here before. We have lost games before. We have lost some huge games against top guns before the World Cup. It's more about how the team puts themselves together and how the technical team learns on those key things they've learned about the players and move that forward. So basically, I'd say it's all calm in camp and key points have been taken.
Okay. George, many thanks. We know that we'll be with you all the way to Tuesday and all the way to Qatar 2022 on this. But let me bring in Lai Kingston. Then we can be getting ready to bring in a few calls as well. Then we wrap up on this. Lai Kingston, so 2006, we went to the round of 16. And that was when Brazil beat us by 3 goals 2010, we went to the quarterfinals, eliminated by Uruguay. We are in the same team with them, the same group with them, Group H. Then 2014, group stages. 2018, we're in there. 2022, we are going November 30. Lai, we've heard what we can do to bring back the love. What does it look like for you? What do you think, briefly, can help us all bring back the love for a team that you've been part of before?
For me, I think the key word will be performance. For me, as a technical person, I know that football is there for you. You can lose games, but I focus more on performance. So I believe if Ghanaians are playing very well, especially in this trial game, they are playing well, especially when they play against Brazil. They played very well against Brazil, and they lose the game. We've played against them. I remember I played against them in the friendly game in Sweden. We had a very good game. We lost the game, but there wasn't this pressure on us like now. So for me, I think the performance is something, the key thing that will motivate them or put Ghanaians in a position that they will have trust in the team. But one thing Ghanaians should know that it has happened before. Most of the times when Ghana is preparing for a major tournament, these things happen. But when the tournament starts, it's a ball game altogether.
Your time, where did any of your teams or yourself benefit from this favoritism that we are talking about in terms of selection?
Say that again?
I'm asking about the issue about favoritism when it comes to selection of players into the national team. Your time, did you or any of your colleagues benefit from that?
I don't think so, because our time and also this situation, we are not in their meetings, we are not in the management meetings, but for me, for where I sit, I believe every game I played in the national team, I played on merit. The same thing goes to most of my colleagues, or even all my colleagues, because I've not witnessed anything that I will raise my hand and say, oh, this player is he have a godfather left and right. But for me, in my time, we have Sule Mutari, we have Mechalesian, Stephen Abia. I mentioned them. Everyone is playing very well in their clubs. And when we come to to play for the national team, we put in maximum effort, and Ghanaians love us for that.
Okay.
So for me, the key word will be performance.
Performance.
Perform well.
Okay.
I think, and also one thing we should know: tournament is a different game altogether. So I'm sure they will go there when the tournament starts to see a different Black Stars.
Okay. Well, performance is key to bringing back the love for Laik Instinct. And I think that we have Mr. Kobna Mensah-Woyome back this time, hopefully with a better connection. So we are hoping that there will be some intervention from your team in Parliament, your committee, for instance, as we go into the World Cup itself, so that we can see a change. What would that be? Ms. Awoyome?
Yes, Emefa, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear. I don't know if you heard me earlier. I was asking about whether there is an intervention.
Thank you, I did. So what I was actually building was to just say that there's the angle of the government coming in to support the capacity building, knowledge transfer, get people to be able to do things right and all that, to ensure that the policing process in terms of who plays.
Oh dear. Oh dear. It appears that we've lost him. The connection is just not working. Do I still have Sunny Dara with me? Maybe we just do a quick round, then we can wrap up. For Laik Instinct, his performance, we've heard Mr. Kofi Bentil give us a lineup of things that for him should happen so that you see, he wants to inject nationalism into the game again, and the football people should not be allowed to handle football all by themselves. Issues about bonuses being paid at the end of the tournament. These are the things for him that will bring back the love. I don't know if Sunny Dara is on, and Jerome, Sunny, maybe briefly also, we've had Laik Instinct, here's his performance. Sunny, what for you should be done such that the love would bring back the love, would not just be a mantra, but would really, love would really be brought back?
I think that we are on the right path. Months before Otoado took over, we didn't know that Ghana would be capable of qualifying for the World Cup. He's only just trying to rebuild the squad, and most of the players we have now are in their early 20s. So they are going to be with us for the next 10 years or more. And I think that we are just being jumpy. Some of us are just being jumpy, expecting that, you know, you build a house today, you complete the house today and get everything done. There will be bumps on the road, and things will normalize. We'll get things, you know, on the level. But I disagree with Jerome when he said that players are selected on maybe contacts or whatever. I strongly disagree. Strongly disagree. On Friday when I was watching, there were scouts and also spies from the other teams we are playing against. Actually, the guy spying for Portugal was seated just next to me. And he was positively surprised with the performance of Baba Rahman. So I was surprised when I heard on social media, this was us watching with maybe a lot of professionals who have undergone training in this area, saying that Baba Rahman's area was an area that was not exploited by the Brazilians. If you look, the area that was exploited was the area of Odwe. So I was surprised people were making these suggestions. And do you know Otoado? Do you know Otoado to say that somebody
he can't be influenced? He can't be influenced?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. This is a coach who's brought up some of the best players in the world, working with perhaps one of the top clubs in the world. And the sort of training and discipline they get, you know, like, you know, Ken said that, you know, they won't allow a coach to have his way. Mm-hmm. For me, I don't see it as a way of interfering, but to question him. To question him. And I would expect that from management. That, you know, a coach cannot just bring a squad and say, this is my squad, and it ends there. Who questions him on behalf of the people of Ghana? It doesn't mean that when you question him and say, why don't you think so? Perhaps there's an alternative. Perhaps there's this. It means that the person is interfering.
Okay. We just hope, we hope that is what really pertains. Jerome, briefly, Otoado cannot be influenced.
Sani is my senior, but I mean, respectfully, I disagree with him. I mean, these are not things that, I mean, Otto, I have a lot of respect for him, but I don't believe what Sani is true. I mean, what Sani is saying is true. I would not believe it because I mean, we all have information in the team and we know some of the things that happened. Even this Brazil game, we know the things that happened right after the game or even before the game. So I will not believe those things. But for the way out, I think that at the level of the politicians, they're also letting us down. They are letting us down big time. And that is an area we must look at. Sometimes when you go into the politics, people think that you are speaking for one political party or the other, or against the other. I do not believe that as we have it now, the political system that should be checking the management of the FA is doing their work well. They are not. They are more or less in camp with the managers of the Black Stars, and you do not really see checks and balances. See, about a year ago, we went to Qatar, supposedly to acclimatize because we were hoping to qualify for the World Cup. What happened to that acclimatization and the situation that we have now? What was the use? Because the team has changed completely.
Okay.
If we are any serious people, we should be asking why at all that trip to Qatar even happened. Because as we have it now, the
different set of people,
for instance, came out to say that they went to acclimatize. And I'm saying that it is on record, you can check. Virtually the entire team that went to Qatar for that acclimatization has changed. So
interesting.
I don't believe that at the level of the politicians or government, we are doing the necessary checks we have to do on the Black Stars. We are not. And for me, it is disappointing. It is very, very disappointing.
Okay.
Much as the coaches and the players, I mean, those with the technical, I mean, expertise will talk about their field. At the level of leadership, we are failing.
Okay,
for me,
thank you.
It is an area we must look at.
Thank you, Jerome. I'll give you the final word to Kofi Bento and then my colleague in the studios. Then we can briefly wrap up on this. This is a very interesting conversation. Mr. Bento, finally going on to Nicaragua and then to Qatar. You have hope? 30 seconds. You have hope?
Oh, you are one of the people forcing me to have hope in the Black Stars. I don't have anything hope in the Black Stars. And this is regardless of the fact that I support someone like Otuado very much. And I am trying, okay, to hold out for future.
Okay.
But I'm clear in my mind that hope for the future will require us extricating the management of the Black Stars from a private association called the GFA,
okay,
and private individuals who are pursuing their business. Maybe we should sit down with Sani, and if we want the hearts of Ghanaians back into the Black Stars, we need to find a way to go back to the days of Ohinijai and get this team to become again the national team.
Thank you.
Of people's private business.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kofi Bento, Imani Africa, Kobi Mensah, George Ado Jr., Nathan Gaduga, Jerome Mochri, Sani Dara, Lai Kingston.
And myself.
And yourself. Finally, briefly.
Well, I think basically they've said everything. Otto Addo will need his performances to prove that.
He can't be influenced, from what you know.
From what I know, it's quite difficult. I remember they asked him to invite Sule Muntari. He gave them a graph to show that Sule Muntari doesn't deserve a place in the Black Stars.
Okay.
That's enough.
We'll have a lot of talk subsequently, all the way to Tuesday. This has been The Probe. For a radio audience, we have a Walk of Jesus. I am Emefa Apawu. Many thanks on behalf of the entire team. Another edition comes your way same time. Have a good evening.